I think in this case, we should go to another page where we embed the assistant, the N8N chat, right? So we open up hierarchy. We already created a page that we called chat for this purpose. And here we should add a chat. So we're gonna add it using the HTML component. So if I open up the HTML component, I see you've had some you had some JavaScript right here. So I'm just gonna try and figure out what we should do with this. So we have a function that initializes the chat. It has a button, event listener, UI. So this is in fact not something that is native in N8N. Okay. Well, we'll be able to add it. That's not a problem, I think. Let's first start with this with the styling of the chat container. I'm just looking at where the HTML is. You create the HTML. Yeah. Okay, I understand. You create the HTML dynamically through JavaScript. Yeah. So, and that was necessary in the platform that you are coming from. Okay. Well, we can do that. We can do that anyway. Or we can first try and do it like this because it is very interesting for us to use the HTML component. So maybe I'll explain a bit about the HTML component because this is a very powerful component. You can add it just like you add any other component to the screens. And what you can add in an HTML component, well, it's plain HTML, of course. But you can also add JavaScript files if you have some hosted anywhere. You can add a JavaScript file right here. So that's an URL. You can add CSS files if you have any CSS hosted somewhere. You can add this here as well. You can add some JavaScript that will be executed before the component loads. So that's that. You can add some JavaScript that will be executed after the component loads. You can add some CSS, which we will be doing. And the nice thing is, Lloyd, that in every one of these input fields, which you can make bigger like this because that's much more convenient to add in code, you can add placeholders. And these placeholders will be replaced again with, just like you add placeholders in a title component in NoCode-X, these placeholders will be replaced with their values depending on first of all, the values of the parameters, for example, that are passed. But you can also do a little back and forth with actions that you can call in NoCode-X. So there is a certain function that you can call in your JavaScript that executes an action which you define in NoCode-X. For example, if you want to load something from the database in NoCode-X and you want to pass it along with JavaScript that you run on your in your HTML component, you can use a placeholder. You can use the onload trigger on the page to fetch the information from the database, and then you can just inject it in this placeholder by injecting it in the parameter of the template, and you will be able to use it in JavaScript code. Yeah, I see that you added the N8N URL right here and the button color and hover. So
just a quick question on the JavaScript URL.
sure.
Call as CDN and then.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's really nice because you have a lot of cool JavaScript plugins that'll add functionality to any application that you want. For example, to add like a calendar, you have like dozens of JavaScript plugins, and all those plugins probably serve their JavaScript files through CDNs, and then you're actually able to add it as a file right here. The only thing that you need is you need to have a unique name. You add an URL, and then you choose to execute it asynchronously, or you choose to execute it as a module. Now, in most cases, you just want to switch this off, have a plain old JavaScript file that is served, and then it'll execute, and you can add the HTML needed for your plugin right here, and then you can enrich it even with data that's needed. Just like we will do a little bit of custom coding in this case, you will be able to use like any plugin really that's available to you in your NoCode-X projects. So that's perfect for like components that are not in NoCode-X. For example, a calendar component. For example, some graphs that you might. I've done plenty of implementations on 3D.js, which is a really cool library which you can use to do visual representations of data. It's a bit complicated, but it's really cool that you get the hang of it. And I've done plenty of this in NoCode-X. One of the cooler things that I've created with this is as we can say it's a sort of a no-code tool where I had different nodes, and those different nodes executed different logic. So that was for a credit scoring application that we've done, and this was actually, you could say that we've built a small no-code platform inside a no-code platform. So that was my nerd sense was all over the place when we started building that. So we had a lot of fun with that. But this opens up so much. What I wanted to say is that this HTML component opens up so much possibility. And we will be releasing in the future an equivalent of this on the back end. So you will be able to, because this is purely front end focused, so this is HTML and JavaScript, but you will be also able to execute Python code, JavaScript on the back end, and other languages that we still have to choose. We will be able to bring that along as well. So that will open up even more possibility in the backend as well. Voila. Of course, the challenges to executing backend code is a bit bigger because we're all about security. So we want to deliver a secure environment to execute your own code. And you can imagine that there are some challenges with that if you want your users to bring their own code, but you want to keep it secure. Voila. So it has to be executed in a secure environment. But let's start with the chat application or the chat box. So I can see that you created in JavaScript, you created a div which you called the chat container. That's the first thing. And inside that div, I think it's inside that div. No, it's not. You also create a div which you assign the class to, which is the message area. And then you also created a div, which is the input area. So the cool thing is that this doesn't necessarily have to be, has to happen inside JavaScript anymore. So you can just put it like you would put HTML on an HTML page. So placeholder, type your message, and then class name is chat input. Voila. And then you also add a button. But okay, you append it later in the. I'm actually reading for clarity's sake. Let me just start sharing this as well. I don't know if we can visualize this in the OBS. Yes, we are actually recording this. So what I'm doing is I'm translating this to HTML, right? So I'm right here, created this input field. Now I'm creating the send button. So this is the button, and the text content is just send, and then the class of this button is send button, like this. And then we have this input area. We append the input field, so that is already done. And we append the send button, so that is already done. And then the chat container appends the messages area, which was yeah, I think it's logical. And then the chat container also appends the input area. So we have a chat container, we have a messages area, and an input area right here. Let's click save for a second so we don't lose this. And then we have a target block, which is block ID, which is probably here something. Probably this is something in the previous platform that you.
So, yeah, in the previous platform, you had to put a block in, get the ID for that block, and then the JavaScript replace
So
that.
that's not necessary here. So it's because the HTML will just be added to the block that we added to this. So as you can see here, we have a type message sent, and the invisible divs are already there. What we now need to do is maybe add some styling. So let's do that as well. I see that you have styling here, and if all goes well, I can just copy paste this in here. And let me just open this real quick. I see there are some errors. That's because we've used some parameters, but you don't need them, huh? You said?
No,
Kyle, let's for now use blue as a color. We can always change this, of course.
I mean, colors.
Absolutely. We'll be we will be able to use the placeholders, and then we'll probably be able to use. I'll make sure that we'll be able to use the actual values of the design system.
The design system.
So I think that makes sense, huh? So we'll use those, but for now, let's put it at blue, and then we can change it afterwards. So I can see there's still a little bit of an error right here, and I think we're through all the errors. Let's hit save. Voila. So like this. So, and I have to stop saying voila apparently, because people are imitating me. It was a good joke. So let's see how that comes out already. If I can get rid of this one. Yeah, let's switch off authentication. Well, it's not at the correct place, but I think it looks already like you designed it, correct, Lloyd? So okay, let's put it at the correct place now. So we open up container, content, we have HTML, and then probably
That may well be the chat complaint because I had to move the way it was being
could be. We'll see. Anyway, we'll fix it. That's not a problem. I'll have to switch off blocks so I can see which block I am actually. It could also be this one though. Could also be this one because we want to have it to grow to 1, and we want to have it have a basis, and then we want to. I'm just trying to get this content aligned here for a second because there it is. That's better. No, Lloyd?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay, so let us also like add a bit of a puddle of 20 pixels so it doesn't stick to the top. I'll have to reload again. Well, okay. And now let's try and combine this with the N8N backend. So I'll open up the HTML component again. Like this. So let's open it up. And then let's add some JavaScript. So let's go through this JavaScript. Voila. Chat interface, create chat interface. So we've done that. We have to add the function to add a message. So I can add it here. I add this function like this. Then we'll have to add a function that calls send message to N8N. So let's see what this does. So we create a div. So that has to be dynamically. Create a div. We use the query selector to find the messages area, and we append the child. So that's fine. That'll work. And then we send a message. This will fetch the webhook URL, which is a parameter of send message. It will do a post. It will send a body, and it will probably receive a response from N8N. This is probably the webhook from N8N, which does some great stuff, and then it responds with data. And that is returned from this. So that's probably what it is. And then we have another piece of JavaScript, and this is actually the initialization of the chat. Let's see what this does. So it gets variables. It gets some variables. We can get rid of this. So what we can do here is, well, not very much differently. We will like use user ID, username, and I'm just this local state. Yeah, this local state just reminds me of an announcement that I can do, is that we will be having state in NoCode-X really soon, because we are working on what we call at the moment the blackboard pattern, which will allow you, and we will not be calling it the blackboard pattern when it comes out, but it will allow you to write values to a state of your application, which will be usable throughout all actions and all templates of your application, no matter how nested those actions and templates are, which will make it much easier to share data between actions and between templates that are nested actually. So you'll be able to you'll be able to keep your state keep your state keep your state covered and share your state throughout components that you create. And this will all happen automatically. The only thing you will have to do is write data to the state from your action. So we're actively working on that. So that's coming to you really soon.
So I understand, as an example of that, you could have a component that has a state of on or nosebleed. So like the 7 and 28 days, we could say, how are we going to do it with the two, or how are we doing it with the two components?
Yeah, or even you could have the parameter that you pass to the consistency block. You could just make use a placeholder right there, and then in any action you have somewhere deep inside a nested component, for example, you just write to the state and you say, okay, my amount of pages of days that I want to show is not 28, is 7. Then it'll change automatically the amount of pages that are the amount of days that are being shown. Now, what we had to do is, at the moment, we had to fiddle around with hiding and showing templates, and even adding a parameter to the URL of the page to be able to keep that state or to be able to remember that state. Now, in many cases, adding parameters to the URL is better. In some cases, it isn't. Just like in the case that we had with the 28 days, 7 days, then keeping some kind of state of your application is what we want. So that will be coming to us real soon, and that will make development in NoCode-X even a bit easier again. So voila. So N8N URL, N8N N8 N URL. And we don't need the button color and the button hover. So that's that. Yeah, we can log it, but I think we need to use console log like this, and we need to use console log like that, because log is probably okay. Yeah, okay, I understand. You had a debug. Oh, okay, you created it like that, so that's fine. That's fine. So let's follow this. So we have another function log, which actually uses console log, which is default JavaScript logging, and then you have the debug flag on true, and voila. Then you can switch it off when you go to production, something like that. That was the idea, right?
Yes.
So voila.
You're aware that's why we have the N8N URL parameter, because there is a production and there's a test.
Okay, cool. And I usually put this in configuration data, and then we'll be able to have two configuration data records for your application. One with production data and one with development data. I'll show you. So we log it, we inject the CSS. We'll just have to find what function that is, injecting CSS. I can't find it. Is it something that is keen? I have it. We don't need it anymore. Because we already have the CSS. So we have our promise, wait for React to settle. Okay. I don't.
page to actually the way the page was rendered on the browser, so we had to wait. We put in a time in to say, make sure that the page was complete.
That is JavaScript for you now, of course. Don't say I haven't saved it. Okay, I have to. I'll have to. I clicked it. I misclicked, and now I have to like copy paste some things all over again. So we have the add message that is still in there. We have those two here like this. Then let's save it, and then let us initialize chat. Yeah, I'll have to redo this, of course. That's a bit of a bummer, but I'll be quick about it. Voila, and then we'll just use user ID, and we don't need block ID. We don't need this, and we can hombre message, and then N8N and N8N girl, I guess. So yeah, don't need that anymore. We can use that, but we'll get an issue on these two because we removed it, and on the block ID. And then we don't need to inject CSS, and we don't need this anymore. So we'll just save it, and then we'll go further. So create chat interface, we don't need that anymore because we have the chat interface. We do need a display message, add a personalized welcome message. So this is based on the username and the welcoming message. So this calls the add message, so that's fine. Then we have UI button add event listener. I think we'll have to do this in another way. I think we'll have to link it to the button. So let's keep that open for now. Let's like this, and then UI input at event listener, key press, and then log initialization complete. I think we'll have to well, this is standard JavaScript, but this isn't. So it's actually fetching the UI button from somewhere. I think we'll just have to get the element by a selector, like this. Just would be pasting the button like this, and then we'll put in the correct element, and then we'll also do the input like this, and then I'll just check. So I have inputs, but my class name is chat input, and then I have class name send button. I think send button. So if I open up the pre-JavaScript right here, I have this as a class. I could be doing this with ID, of course, as well. But voila, and then this is not correct. I probably I have to go back. Here. Okay, that's the button. Send button. So add event listener to the button, and then button disabled, and I still have to find a way. This it was called chat input, if I'm not mistaken. Chat input, and then we just switch UI input, and this, I think this should all work.
So this was obviously written to navigate the previous platform. However, whenever I did it all in ChatGPT, but if I just I would then just copy those components over. So HTML to the HTML, CSS to CSS, and then JavaScript to JavaScript. And it
Yeah, there is absolutely nothing that is NoCode-X specific in this code. Absolutely nothing. Unless you're talking about these things. So these placeholders are NoCode-X specific, and in a minute, if we want to like because it will be very handy if we calculate the credits, for example, Lloyd. We will be wanting to do that through an action, and we want to request an action from the HTML component. Then it will be NoCode-X specific, a small part of this function. Which is normal. Interacting, getting data from NoCode-X and interacting with NoCode-X is NoCode-X specific. But you can, if you have the syntax ready, available for you, you can request ChatGPT with that information, and he will or she, I don't know what ChatGPT is, will answer with the correct question, an answer, of course. And that reminds me, because we might want to add these things, the fact that you can add placeholders in this page as well. So, but that's just a thought. So, okay. So, I think we can already test something. It won't work because we don't have the placeholders replaced at the moment. But it should do something correct. It should at least give us an error if we want to. It has a message not loading JavaScript because it contains unreplaced placeholders. So we should really replace the placeholders first. Excuse me. So let's do that. Okay, let's do that real quick. And in the meanwhile, I'll show you how to do that configuration data part. So what we want in this part is actually the N8N URL, if I'm not mistaken, and then that's actually all, no?
Yeah, I mean, we need the welcome message.
Yeah, let's put that in there.
And that's it. And then the other two are then off the
What you do to achieve this, Lloyd, is you actually just create a data format, and you can put in welcoming message text like this, and you can put in N8N URL like this, which is an URL, of course. Now, there are a lot of use cases where configuration data contains sensitive data. For example, API keys, which we might want to add as well for N8N. I'm not sure. API keys, passwords, secrets. If you want to store your secrets and your passwords and API keys safely, and in that case, as safe as it possibly gets, you can just put in the data classification of secret on that field where you want to store the actual API keys. This URL might be a secret as well. So we just flip on secret. What that does, Lloyd, is it keeps an audit log of every change that happens to that data. So you will be always able to see it if somebody changed it. You will also be able to see who changed it and when it was changed. That's that. And it will also be encrypted at application level in our database, which actually means that if anybody should gain access to the data, they would have to gain access to another database that contains the keys to actually decrypt the data that is in that database. So and it's actually even going a little bit further than that, because we encrypt the data using a key that we store in another database, but also encrypted using a master key that is stored in another database. So it's pretty secure. It's what we call perfect forward security. A hacker has to go all the way to actually decrypt this data. Voila. So that's that. So we have our N8N URL. So those are the two things that we need. Welcoming message, N8N URL, and if we need any more, we can also add, of course. That's not a problem. So what we need to do to add this configuration is just create a piece of data. So I'll just call this Mindshift config, and now I'll choose Mindshift config as the data format. And the cool thing is, Lloyd, we can create configuration for development, we can create configuration for test, we can create configuration for acceptance, and we can create configuration for production. So in this case, we'll start with development, and we'll add a welcoming message. And I don't know, welcome to Mindshift audio. We can also change this later. Did you send me the URL? Yes, thank you, Lloyd. Well, I can just copy paste it in here and save it. Voila. So we have this, and then I can go into the chat window here. I can open up actions. Again, an onload action, which will be triggered whenever this page is changing. And in that regards, I also have an announcement to do, because in one of the future releases, we will be adding more events to this page right here. We will have an onload event. We will have a full-blown life cycle all of your page, which will enable you to execute logic when, for example, your page is destroyed, or which means that when your page is when somebody leaves your page. So you'll be doing you'll be able to do much more than only on load, which is the case today. So let's create an onload, and let's call this fetch chat configuration, fetch chat configuration. And as I mentioned, this what we are about to do now will also be able to work with the black boards that's coming up, but now we're just doing it through parameters. So let me quickly copy paste the parameters right here, so I can create them in my page. So the first parameter we need is the user ID. The second parameter we need is the user name, which is also text. Text is the name. And then we have another parameter which we want to add is the welcoming message. Welcoming message. We want to add another parameter, which is the N8N URL, like this. So we hit save, and then we get back to our fetch chat configuration. And for now, let's just try this with so let's first of all, we want to fetch the data from our database using the configuration data. So we want to search for one data record. Again, we know we'll only find one because there's only one config. We will search for Mindshift config. We don't have to define any filters. We only have to define a name for which to store the data in our variable scope. And then we can start adding the template parameters or the let's find set parameters of set value of template parameter, this one right here. So the parameter that I want to add is user ID, which is in our case current user email, right? I want to add another parameter value for parameter, which is the username. So user name, which can be a first name, for example. Of course, Lloyd, if you want to add the last name to it, you could be able to add a little bit of logic right here to add the last name and then add it as a parameter username. And then if we want to set the value of a template parameter, which is probably now the welcoming message. Let me quickly check. I clicked away my my little reminder here, welcoming message. So important here is the first part. I haven't explained that correctly, but important here is this parameter is the name of the parameter which you defined in here. So we have user ID, username, welcoming message, N8N URL. And what you have to do is to fill them up with data. You have to define first the name, in this case, welcoming message. And I want to fill it up with data which I fetched from my database, which is the config payload welcoming message. So whatever is in here will be now put in this parameter. And I can do this again, set value of parameter for the N8N URL. So again here, N8N URL. I think it was without an underscore. So voila. So this is now the value that's be put in this parameter. So let's open this up. Let's close this like this. And let me see if this is still an error. It still contains some unreplaced, unless we just load it again. It still contains some unreplaced parameters. It did replace this. It didn't replace this because I added it without an underscore. So like this, and then this has to be correct because else they won't know which parameter to adjust. So added the underscore. So now it will also replace the N8N URL. We're almost there. And now that the reason why it didn't replace user ID and username is simply because I have switched off authentication. So in order to access the user, the current user email address and current username, you have to switch on authentication, of course, or you won't be able to.
They used the user ID because it was numeric in the previous platform as the section
Okay.
in N8N chat. So I'm not sure the email is going to work. It's also just
We'll check it out, and if it doesn't work, we'll fix it. That's not a problem. So let's see if so now the HTML is loaded. The JavaScript is loaded because we don't get an error anymore in our log. However, I can see that there is nothing really happening when I click the button. So that's a bit worrying, or worrying. So let me quickly check if the changes that we made to the JavaScript here are actually being picked up, or actually are correct for that matter. So if I do this in my console, I should be able to get the correct send button. And if I do this in my console, oh, I should be able to. Voila. And then I do this, and then I do console log hey ho. Voila. This works. So apparently something is going on with this. Oh, of course, Lloyd, we should actually initialize the chat. I think we've forgotten that, hey? Yeah, here it is. So you have a little bit of piece of code which calls this function, which is perfectly fine. Excuse me. But we also have to include this code right here. So it checks if the ready state is complete, initializes the chat, and adds, if not, it adds an event listener on DOM content loaded to initialize the chat. Voila. So that should be enough. That's looking already a bit better, eh, Lloyd? We already have a welcome message. Hi. What can I ask this? This.
You just
That works perfectly. Yeah. Can you please specify the area of your work, of your life or business that you want to work on? Okay. So good.